with JMU Hall of Famer and someone who knows a hell of a lot about taking it to the house.
Joyce breaks a tackle and goes in for a touchdown. Another spectacular run by Delvin Joyce.
Delvin Joyce brings his unique perspective to the podcast to break down all things he's seeing about JMU football, with a little help from EPA King Jack Fitzpatrick and Bennett Conlon.
Here he goes. He's going to try to beat the punter. He does. He's gone. And that is a touchdown.
Welcome into To the House.
Look at him turn back and forth. Oh, he broke his ankles. Now he's got an entourage. And he's got a touchdown.
Now, here's Delvin Joyce with Jack Fitzpatrick and Bennett Conlon.
What's going on, JMU Nation? Welcome to another episode of To the House. This is the season finale of To the House. I'm your host, Delvin Joyce, the People's Choice. I am joined by my guy, Jack Fitzpatrick, a.k.a. Jay Feezy, a.k.a. the EPA King. What's going on, Jack?
I'm a little bummed that this is going to be the last time I bring the EPA-ness into the podcast. But until next season, it's been a great time. It's been a fantastic time, and I'm excited to cook it up one last time with you here tonight.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, NHL to entertainment and political props. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. BetOnline, the game starts here. Be sure to subscribe to the JMU Sports News Network so you never miss an episode. We are your exclusive home for To the House with JMU Hall of Famer Delvin Joyce and the JMU Sports News Podcast with Jack Fitzpatrick and Bennett Conlon. New episodes of To the House drop every Monday, and new episodes of the JMU Sports News Podcast drop in the middle of every week. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and YouTube so you never miss an episode.
Let's chef it up, man. And by the way, I mean, I hope that does not mean that I will not be invited to the JMU Sports News Podcast to moonlight every now and then.
We'll see, man. I don't know. It's a tough schedule to break into that podcast.
I know, man. You guys got so much going on, man. And speaking of so much going on, of course, the Dukes have now officially ended their season down in Boca Raton, Florida. Jack, I was there in person, sweating like crazy. It was such a great atmosphere. The weather was perfect. They called for rain. It rained as I was coming in. In fact, I didn't know if my flight was actually going to land because there was a storm. But we finally got out to the bowl and the Dukes got the dub. So Jack, you were watching at home. I listened to a smidge of the JMU Sports News Podcast. I don't like to listen to other podcasts before I make my takes because I don't want to be influenced. But what were I guess some of your thoughts about the game and the atmosphere and what it looked like on television?
Well, first I got to say weather's a funny thing, specifically like the weather in America, because you went to the App State game, you went to the Marshall game to finish out the season, and both of those you're bundled up, right? Like you were texting Bennett and I was like, you got to put AOC. I mean, get the warm weather, get your own brewskis, get your own bourbon, stay warm inside. And you're like, I'm going to go to these games and bundled up fully. And then you go down to Boca Raton and you're in short sleeve shorts and you're sweating during the game. Absolutely hilarious. About the game itself. Just a hilarious game because we had just experienced the App State blown lead. We had just experienced the Marshall blown lead. And they go into halftime down 14-7. And I was sitting there like, well, it was a good season. We're finishing it on 3 losses. I can't believe this is how it's ended after 4 straight wins, including a UNC win. And then guess what they did? They put together arguably their best second half of the entire season. And you can't take too much quote unquote momentum from a bowl game into the next season, right? Like you look at Virginia Tech, they've had all of this momentum from their bowl games each year, and they're a failure the following year, each year regardless. But it did feel really cool to watch them kind of get that monkey off their back, play extremely well with Billy Atkins. And it left such a good taste in our mouths as JMU fans, where on this podcast, we're going to talk about all the positives from the season. If they had lost that game, I don't think I would have been positive.
Yeah, I think it was I mean, that is a great point. There is a big difference. And I know a lot of people have said this, right? There is a big difference though between, 9-4 and 8-5. And I think that winning this bowl game, however you feel about the Boca Raton Bowl, because I'm going to talk about that in a second. I think that was a great ribbon on top of what I think will go down as a really successful season for the Dukes. And so after all the adversity and the turmoil and all the things that they faced, 60 something new players on this roster, and to come out and win 8 games and then win their first bowl game in school history, I thought it was a perfect way to end the season. And to your point, that momentum that we just talked about, there is a lot of momentum that will actually come from this. As you know, though, they still got to play the games on the field next year. Momentum in a vacuum doesn't win games, especially off-season momentum. And so we got to make sure that this momentum actually translates into recruiting and all the retention that we need to compete next year. Now, I thought that Boca, I mean, listen, I used to live down there, so I know the area very well. I thought the Boca Raton Bowl, I thought they put on a really, really good show locally. What was really cool is as we were walking into the stadium, there were tons of people coming to this game who had no affiliation to either university. And I always forget that, these bowl games are events in those local towns. And so it was really cool to just sort of talk and chop it up and talk to some of the fans who were coming there who knew nothing about the game, but knew of the universities. I thought that was really cool.
Did you run into Kyle Long by chance?
Kyle Long. He
was a Chicago Bears. I think he finished his career on the Kansas City Chiefs. He was an offensive lineman, brother of Chris Long. If you know, Chris Long was a UVA grad, was a top 5 draft pick in like the 2012, maybe 2010 NFL draft. He was there. He tweeted about it. And I just thought it was really funny that like an ex-NFLer who's now a talking head on CBS is like, I'm going to take my daughters to the Boca Raton Bowl, see what's going on. And I was like, of course. Yeah. That makes sense.
I mean, it was awesome, man. I mean, the only downside to that is that, there were a couple of guys sitting in front of us, right? One guy's wearing a green shirt. The other guy's wearing like a blue shirt. So obviously no relation to either team. It was funny though. One of the guys was actually wearing purple and gold beads. So someone had given him some JMU beads because he's sitting in the JMU section. He's wearing a Red Sox hat. Shout out to all the massholes out there. And he's like, at some point in the game, this is like third quarter in the game, there's some JMU kids sitting in front of him and they're standing up just like everybody else in the JMU section. And the guy literally has the nerve to say down in front. I was like, what? Bro, you're at a football game. We're not in church. What are you talking about down in front? And so that was the only, I guess, downside, because had he been a true JMU fan, he would have been standing up the entire time. But, dude, we got one last tailgate in. It was an epic tailgate. A lot of food, a lot of fellowship, a lot of good stuff. And it was in the sun and the fun of South Florida. A lot of the JMU football alumni club was there. And so that was also a very, very good time. Now let's talk about the game for a second. And you guys already, I think, did a really good job. I'm going to listen after we record tonight. But I think you guys did a really good job probably of already recapping. That game feels like it was like years ago already. Yeah. And it was like last week. But, the first thing, obviously, is that Billy Atkins IV came to play. The guy looked poised. He threw some really good balls. We had a couple of drops in the first half that had those balls not been dropped, he would have had an even better game. But I was so impressed that this guy was able to come out calm, cool, collected, and he ran that offense, I believe, as if he had been the starter the entire season. Like, you would not have known that he was not the starter, except for the fact that it looked like we were a little hesitant to throw the ball at times. But what were your thoughts there?
Yeah, that first half I was banging my head against the wall. I was like, all season I've been begging Dean Kennedy to run it more. And here he is like running it in places where it didn't make sense, like a 3rd and long. And he goes, all right, this is the time we're going to do a George Pettaway draw for 5 yards. No, brother, like that's not what we meant. We want you to open things up. And he did call the game kind of in that first half, like he had a 3rd string quarterback in there.
Yeah.
He finished 16 of 23, 181 and a touchdown. JC Evans also took 11 snaps. 10 of them were rushes. One just so happened to be a touchdown pass for 1 yard. But they opened things up in the second half really well. They had a much more kind of balanced play calling attack. Billy looked a lot more at ease. Is that partially because his wide receivers were catching the passes that he was putting on the money? A little bit. I think if you talk to a Marion Dollison or Cam Ross, I think both of them would tell you point blank, like, I should have caught the pass that Billy put like perfectly in the breadbasket.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a really good game. First half did feel like they were calling the game like a 3rd string quarterback was playing. And the second half felt like they were like, we can trust Billy here. The season is over no matter win or lose at this point. So let's go out. Let's have some fun. And that's how they played in the second half.
Yeah, that's how they played in the second half. And to your point, man, I really wanted them to play that way in the first half.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
I mean, I was pulling my eyebrows out in the first half. I was like, dude, let's open it up, throw the ball. What are we doing? I may have fired off a couple of crazy, angry texts to you and Bennett at some point during the game. But to your point, I mean, I thought the offense looked pretty good. Even with JC Evans in there, I mean, he ran the ball 10 times. It almost got a little predictable that when JC Evans is in the ball game, he's going to run the ball. So much so that the entire game I was calling the pop pass. Like, I was literally looking around to all the, JMU fans that were around me. And I was like, yeah, we're setting up the pop pass.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry, guys. It's coming.
It's coming. Yes. And, I actually was, low key disappointed that we ran the pop pass on like 1st and goal from the 1. Like, we didn't need the pop pass there, right? Like, you had just run the ball with Joby Mallory. Shout out to Joby getting some carries. I got to dap him up after the game, which is pretty cool. He's massive, by the way.
Yeah, this is why they need to use him more. He's a massive human.
Yeah. So they run this really innovative, creative play where, they move Billy Atkins to like an off back position. Joby Mallory goes into the backfield, takes the snap, direct snap, and runs the ball. And they run that play 2 times in a row. He runs it down to the 1. And I'm like, all right, just hand the ball off to him. Let's score the touchdown. And of course, that's where they run the pop pass when we didn't really need it. Like, we needed the pop pass from like the 7 or 8 on the next drive,
So Billy was doing an interview with 106.1 ESPN Richmond, plug to my other employer. And he did an interview and he said that the play call was not that. JC checked into that play at the line of scrimmage.
No way.
So Dean may have been keeping that in his back pocket for still later in the game. But JC, I guess, saw the look. I guess he saw a linebacker or a safety creep down closer to the line of scrimmage and knew he'd have Kai Wright in the back of the end zone. So he checked to it. So it was a play call. It was a run play initially called, but JC did check to a pass play, did check to that pop pass in that situation.
All right. So that is interesting because that makes a whole lot more sense because I don't know that Dean Kennedy would call that play. And shout out to JC Evans. He's like, yo, I'm going to dial this up. I'm going to throw my first career touchdown pass come hell or high water. And I'm actually really glad he did for 2 reasons. Number one, he was genuinely excited about the fact that he threw his first career collegiate touchdown pass. And secondly, I feel like Kai Wright, man, I mean, I think coming into the season, I sort of had this expectation that Kai Wright would not just be relegated to blocking on the line of scrimmage. Yeah. Like he showed some flashes last year, particularly in the Coastal Carolina game. I mean, he made a couple of really big catches. He almost took one to the house down there in Myrtle Beach. I was there in attendance and I'm like, dude, who is this guy? And so to see him only catch 1 pass this season, I'm glad it was in the first bowl game in team history. So he'll always be in that box score. And it was a touchdown for his last career game.
He was the perfect Curt Cignetti tight end where you can go out and you can make your catches, but like you are a blocking first tight end. Zach Corton was the same way. He just didn't feel like he fully aligned with what Chesney wanted out of the tight ends. And it was the biggest bummer for Kai because he's ultra talented. He'll likely get a chance in a NFL training camp to try and break through into a 53-man roster because he's a great blocker and he can catch passes at a high level. But it was a little bit of a bummer that, like you said, last year Kai showed flashes of being this really good Sunbelt tight end, and he just was never able to show his talents this year. And I think that's just because of the coaching staff change.
Yeah. And shout out to him, man. I mean, he had a great attitude about it. I mean, he seems like he accepted his role on the team and he was proud of that, which I think is a big deal. If I'm Kai Wright, though, I mean, Kai, if you're listening, my guy, I didn't want the players to listen to the house during the season, but Kai, I hope you're listening right now. Now listen, dude, go find somebody to show you how to long snap. And I'm telling you, that guy have a 15-year career as a long snapper. Like, he is the prototypical size, the type of guy they're looking for to go snap the ball in the NFL. And that should be an easy skill for someone with his athletic caliber. So good luck to Kai in that endeavor. Now, of course, our guy, George Pettaway, we knew this would be a big game for the running game. And GP had 100 yards. Now, I don't know if it's the irony of the fact that he broke that 13 carry pitch count that they typically have him on. He got 14 carries and 100 yards on the number. And maybe some of our appeals to the JMU stat guy, maybe he was at 99 and they were like, yo, give him the extra yard, right? The shout out to GP, got 100 yards, so close to 1,000 on the season, and also very close to taking one to the house on a play where he just gets tripped up. And we're going to have that guy run through some ropes in the offseason because we got to pick the feet up.
Yeah, we got to bring him on this podcast and have him talk to you about how to break one. His longest run all year was 31 yards. And I think there were 15 run plays this season where he had one defender between him and a 70-yard touchdown run.
Easily. And so, those are some plays that I think we're going to see him make next year. I mean, the guy is super talented. He's got great vision. He hits the holes really hard. Those are plays we're going to see him make next year, hopefully in a James Madison uniform. The other guys, I mean, Wayne Knight had a ball game, not necessarily in the backfield, but he caught some big passes for some first downs in that game. OD, I mean, I know OD dropped that first pass. But after that, and by the way, that first pass was so on the money. That was right in front of me where I was sitting at the game. That first pass was so on the money. It would have been a good catch, but it is a ball that OD should have caught. I think he knows that. And so what does he do? He goes out and starts making some amazing catches for the rest of the game. Competed really hard, man. That guy is he's like a jerk on the field. and the refs just let him get away with it, bro. He catches the ball and headbutts the guy in front of him. Like, he's a bully, bro. He's like Debo, not Debo Samuel, but Debo from Friday. It's hilarious, man. I love it. I felt like the refs let them play though. Did you get that sense too?
Have you watched the game back?
I did watch it back. There was a lot.
You saw all of the holds by both teams that were just not called.
Just not called.
Oh,
yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe Eric O'Neill I hope Eric O'Neill finds whatever place. Love Eric O'Neill. I hope whatever place he goes to, he gets flagged for that wherever he lands. But
especially if they're playing us.
Yeah, exactly. Because that was the prototypical in the offseason, they're going to show referees. Okay, so here's examples of unsportsmanlike conduct. Here's Eric O'Neill, number 99 for James Madison, showing a perfect example of unsportsmanlike conduct, excessive celebration. The dude emptied 2 quivers of arrows on the same person. Yeah. And not only did he not get flagged, typically in football, you see the retaliation. Yeah. That gets flagged. No, he pushed him twice. He pushed Eric O'Neill 2 different
broad
times.
Daylight.
And he never got flagged either. There should have been at least 4 flags on that play by both sides, offsetting, and nothing happened, but there was nothing.
100%. And you know what? They probably should have thrown a flag on me too, because I was going crazy when the guy pushed Eric. I was like, "What are we doing?"
You were like, I know he just emptied an entire quiver of arrows, but I mean, come on, you can't push him.
Oh man, that was pretty funny, man. I think the lesson is that, because they were flagging guys during the season for like pulling out like an imaginary gun and like shooting the quarterback. So apparently, if you go medieval and pull out a bow and arrow, you're good.
Yeah, that'll
right?
do it. Yeah,
That's
safe.
no problem. But the other one was like I think Kyrie Mans when he got the strip sack at the end, which was huge, by the way. I mean, I love that kid, dude. He plays with so much passion, great motor, especially at the end of the game. He gets the strip sack, and then he legit tries to throw the ball into the stands. I don't know if you remember that. Like somebody kind of stopped him, but the ball, he still threw the ball. And I see DJ Barksdale, he's standing there and he puts his hands over his head because he's like, that's a flag. And then there's no flag. So shout out to the refs, man. They were like, yo, this is the Boca Raton Bowl. We're going to let these kids have fun. We're going to let it all hang loose. I thought it was a great display of, just what it could be. So, the other person that I would shout out on this offense that had a really big game. So actually several people, the entire offensive line, the kid that filled in for Ramil, I think
Joseph Simmons.
Yeah, Simmons. I thought he played a fantastic game. Billy Atkins IV didn't get sacked once. I don't know that we've gone a game this entire season without giving up a sack. And so shout out to the offensive line. All those guys, they work so hard for like zero fanfare. And I think that was the best stat. If those guys want to take one to the house, right? Here's your stat line from the Boca Raton Bowl: 0 sacks for our third string quarterback, Billy Atkins IV. So really good. And then lastly, Taylor Thompson. Man, that catch in that moment in the game. So first off, I thought the throw was out of this world. And we have not had success on back shoulder throws the entire season. So I don't know where that came from. Maybe Billy Atkins is the guy who can throw that back shoulder ball. And the catch that Taylor Thompson made, the awareness to go up and catch it and then to get his foot down inbounds, dude, it was phenomenal and it was electric in that stadium.
That was so good. Do you follow Jimbo Thompson on any social media, Taylor's father?
I do not, unfortunately.
Well, that was the first time apparently Jimbo, his dad, ever saw him catch a touchdown in person.
Oh, so his dad was there.
His dad was there, and that was the first time he'd ever seen him catch a touchdown in person. I was like, that's a pretty good touchdown to see in person because, I mean, amazing ball placement.
Yes.
Great by Billy Atkins to understand and have the awareness. He had an open quick slant, but it was 3rd and 6 or third and medium. And that quick slant that came open, it was by design by Western Kentucky to give him open because it would have been caught short of the line of gain. And so instead he goes, all right, I have one-on-one coverage with Taylor Thompson with a light rotating safety. I'm going to take my chances on that one because we're in field goal range. It won't lose anything. Perfectly placed, a perfect catch by Taylor Thompson. I mean, a great play by the quarterback, a great play by the tight end, and it results in 6. That was a great just kind of sequence of events.
Yeah, man, the execution on that. And, I never looked at Taylor Thompson as a pro. When I saw that, I got to be honest, man, when I saw that catch, and especially when I watched it back, again, I've been there. And I said this guy could play in NFL uniform. I mean, that play. Now, again, I'm going to give Taylor the same advice I just gave Kai Wright. Bro, find somebody to show you how to long snap. And he's got I'm telling you, man, these tight ends, like if you can long snap, that is another way to get on the field, make a team, but also contribute as a tight end. But I just thought, an offense. And again, shout out to Billy Atkins. Just the way that he composed himself and went out there and won that football game, I thought it was insane. Now on defense, I thought, I got to give a shout out to Western Kentucky's quarterback Veltkamp. I really think this guy is a really, really good player. I don't know where he's landed. I know he's in the portal, I don't know where he's landed. But this guy is a playmaker, man. I was really impressed with his game. I was also really impressed with his accuracy. The guy threw some really good balls. He was under pressure a lot. He had great pocket presence, moved around in the pocket really well, and just made some big time throws. And they had no running game. In fact, I think we gave up 19 yards of rushing the entire game. And so the game was largely on his back, and I thought he delivered. They were in that game because of him.
Funny enough, he's going to end up at FAU. Reports are that he's about to transfer to FAU.
Get out of here.
Home of the Boca Raton Bowl is the FAU field. So it doesn't have to travel far from that bowl game. But no, he was fantastic, and he fits that system really well with what Tyson Helton wants to run. I'm kind of shocked he decided to transfer, because if he stayed, I mean, he kind of fits that like Bailey Zappi-esque type of quarterback who was the Western Kentucky guy, ended up playing for the Patriots for a few seasons. I think he's kind of been bouncing around since then. But if Elkamp stayed, he could have put up some gaudy numbers with the way he plays. Decides to go enter the transfer portal, go to FAU, but he was. And also, like, you're doing that while you're in the transfer portal, right? So in theory, you're playing for not a ton. And he was battling out there, and they got down, and he brought him back, and he continued to just rise up every time he got hit. And it was really impressive.
Yeah, maybe he's sick of cold weather, and he's like, maybe these palm trees, I'm down with this. They played in the Boca Raton Bowl like the last 7 years in a row, I think.
He's familiar with their home stadium.
Yeah, he's like, I'm already 3-1 down here. I might as well make it one more. But I thought he was really impressive. But we had some guys on defense that played really well. And, a couple of guys that I probably haven't talked about a lot on this show. I mean, Gannon Weathersby, man, I think that kid is like such a hardcore competitor. Did I tell you about the first time I met him?
Probably a very intense meeting.
No, I mean, honestly, bro, like, so it was when I went to speak to the team this offseason, did a little motivational speech for him. And, I see him in the back of the room because they're serving the kids lunch, right? And I see him in the back of the room, and he stands up, and I'm talking to him like, yo, this dude is jacked. Like, I was like, who are you? Like, what position do you play? And he starts telling me, and I had no idea that he was even a major contributor on the team, because he didn't see the field last year, right? Like, I don't remember him playing. And if he did, it was on special teams. That dude is a player, man. That dude is going to have a meaningful career in a JMU uniform, and probably be an all Sun Belt performer next season. The way that he flies around, he's got a good nose for the ball. I thought he was phenomenal in this game.
I was worried going into that game, right? Jacob Dobbs is gone. Taurus Jones is gone. Ray Scott, they're all graduated. And I was like, man, this is going to be a real bummer next. How are they going to fill this? They're going to have to hit the transfer portal pretty hard. And then I was like, okay, they still got Trent Hendrick, the pride of St. Christopher's here in Richmond, Virginia. They still got him. And then Gannon Weathersby goes out and plays a career high 52 snaps and had his, I think, per PFF, his second or third best graded game of the year. But if you kind of weight the fact that he played 52 snaps, you could argue that it was his best game of the year. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, Trent Hendrick next to Gannon Weathersby. I like that linebacker duo next year. He really balled out.
He balled, man. And I like the combination of Hendrick and Weathersby. Also DJ Barksdale, man. DJ Barksdale, again, just plays lights out. Obviously, he got, defensive player of the game.
I love DJ. I have a hater take, though, for DJ.
Okay, tell me.
My guy, that first big hit he had where he blew up the screen pass.
Yeah.
You could have gone for the ball. I need you to get those ball skills up a little bit better and go for that ball.
If he goes for the ball, he'd pick six, right?
It's a pick six, which it was a great hit. It was beautiful. And if he goes for the ball, you run the risk of missing it. He catches it and gains like 10 yards. So I understand why. But DJ Barksdale, if you're listening, this is my hater take. Great play. He had two of them. Both of them, I could have been like, bro, if you had in the off season, work on your ball skills, work on like timing. And those are two pick sixes for him.
I think the first one, if I'm not mistaken, I feel like he kind of went for the ball a little bit and made the tackle. The second one, he went for the blow up, the kill shot.
Yeah, he did.
But it literally would have been Georgia Southern, right, where he got the pick six, like the easy pick six, jumps the route. But the guy still just played I think a lights out game. The strip that he had on the crossing route, right, where he forced the fumble early in the game as they were driving, I thought was one of the bigger plays of the entire game because, they drive there, they score. I mean, there's a ton of momentum that they would have in addition to the momentum that they picked up later in that half. And so shout out to DJ Barksdale. I thought Jordan Taylor played well in coverage. I just thought that, again, Kyrie Mans, of course, the Slim Reaper, played a heck of a game. And of course, Eric O'Neal, dearly departed, pour some out for him. I thought he played a heck of a game at the Boca Bowl. I mean, I don't know what to say, Eric. I don't know what to say. He hasn't been 404'd yet on the website.
They've been slacking on him. Tyshawn's still up there.
Yeah.
Eric O'Neal's still up there. Kalen Jean just entered, another nickel safety. He's still up there. I mean, come on, guys. We got a 404 him.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I mean, as soon as, because you texted me and you were like, oh, Eric O'Neal. And I was like, oh man, I went right to the website and I was like, well, he's not 404 yet. Maybe
it's not official. Maybe he hasn't put in the paperwork.
It's not official. Man, but I think there's a couple of things, man, as I think about the season overall, when I look at, this team, there's a couple of things that I just thought about that I thought were pretty exceptional, things that I would not have expected to see. And the first one is, and this is going to surprise you, I don't know if you noticed, we had 0 targeting penalties for the season. We did not have a single targeting penalty on the season. I think that's, going into this game, I wanted to say it last week, but I didn't want to jinx it. I was like, oh, I'm going to save this one. I don't know how that's possible, except that maybe Coach Hemphill is like coaching that. Maybe they're working on technique. Maybe that's something that is a point of emphasis because obviously targeting is a very, very penal penalty in college football. Not one targeting penalty.
That's impressive.
That is impressive.
Because just like sometimes you get those targeting penalties where there's a wide receiver coming across the middle and you're just going for the hit and you just happen to accidentally have your head be involved and you're like, that's not a targeting. That's very impressive that never happened. They're tackling, I guess, the right way.
They didn't even call it, right? It would be one thing if like they called it and they reversed all of them and I could say, well, they called it on us a couple of, they didn't call it once. That was insane. That's insane. I thought it was insane because I don't know that there's another team that can say they did not get at least one targeting penalty called on them all season.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And, the other one that, did not happen this season was Yamir Knight did not muff a single punt for the entire season.
He's your guy.
Yeah. I mean, and I got to take a picture. I got a chance to take a picture with Yamir and Wayne Knight at the end of the game as the team was celebrating after the game. And I'm happy to say that I'm taller than both of those guys. Now,
really,
I was wearing, I did have an air bubble on my shoes. So there's a little Air Max bias involved there. But I do think I'm taller than both of those guys, which is pretty cool.
I am checking now their page on the roster to see how tall they have them listed as. Because now we got some firsthand experience with this to see if they're lying or not on these roster pages.
Oh no, everybody gets an extra inch on the roster. I mean, you always get an extra inch, but I think I was always listed at 5'7". In reality, I'm 5'6". Right. So I don't know.
Okay, Wayne is listed as 5'7".
He's 5'6".
And Yamir is listed at 5'8".
No chance. No chance that guy's 5'8". There's 0 chance. I would maybe give Yamir 5'7". Wayne's like 5'6" and a quarter. I'm 5'6" 3/4. Yamir might have both of us actually.
Do the quarter inches count a lot at that height? Because at 6'1", I just say 6'1". I don't round up to any quarter inches or anything.
Now, listen, brother, if you're under 6, you need all the quarters you can get, man, especially with all the hype bias that's going around right now, man. I mean, I feel like everybody's like, oh, short king this. Yeah, I am. I'm going to take every quarter inch that I can actually get.
Fair.
So, yeah. So, a couple of other things, man. I thought that, the biggest play in that football game, before we go back to big season sort of picture, I did want to say this, man. Chauncey Logan, the play that he also made to prevent that touchdown on that long play, that was also, so they catch that long pass. That guy I thought was taking it to the house. Chauncey didn't give up on the play, knocks the guy out of bounds at the 4-yard line. They end up having to settle for a field goal there. That was also a massive, massive play in the game.
Yeah.
And when I think about big picture for this season, I think one of the really, really cool things about this game and the momentum going into next season and the ability of this team to stick together, because I think we've all sort of acknowledged that if this team sticks together, there's a lot of things that could potentially be on the horizon for this JMU football program. The thing that really sticks out to me, because I was there and I saw it in person, these guys were genuinely excited and happy to have won that football game. They were excited. The guys were celebrating. They were hugging each other. They were hugging fans. They were talking to they were taking pictures. They were holding up the trophy like they were excited about winning this game. And to me, that shows a lot of, that brotherhood that we've heard Coach Chesney talk about a lot throughout this season. And you could tell that those guys went out and they played this game for one another. And it showed, especially in the results. And so, again, I am looking forward to next season, particularly because I do believe that this team, if they can stick together, if they can maybe pick up some good players in the portal, they are going to be a fantastic team that will compete for a college football playoff spot in the near term. So fingers crossed, right?
Big time. Although so far, so good. The portal hasn't hurt us too bad outside of what was expected.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, Eric O'Neal is going to parlay an All-American season into, some some offers at a P4 school, or maybe some NIL bags or whatever. My mom always said you get them, you lose them how you got them, right? And we got Eric O'Neal in the portal. We're going to lose Eric O'Neal in the portal. He was never ours, right? We got Elijah Surratt in the portal. We lost him in the portal. We got Jordan McLeod in the portal. We lost him in the portal. So, we can't really be that upset about that part of it. And good for him, man. I mean, if he feels like he's got an opportunity to do some things outside of Harrisonburg, then have at it, man. I do wish that guy well. Shaolin's finest, right?
Sure.
He's from Staten Island. You don't even know what that means, bro.
No, I don't.
You're not even a Wu-Tang fan.
Unfortunately, I'm not. I am not.
God.
But all I know, back to the Eric O'Neal, so I don't have too much egg on my face after that one. There's some real funny money being thrown around for him. I mean, to get one of the best edge defenders in Group of 5, I don't blame him. I'm bummed that he's leaving because I would have loved for him to finish in the purple and gold. But with what I would imagine, I'm not sure what the Montpelier Collective was offering, but they also have a bunch of other guys to retain. They can't blow their full budget on Eric O'Neal. There's some P4s out there that I can imagine are going to be offering him 6 to 7 figures to play next season.
Yeah. I mean, good for him, man. I really do. And I mean this, I hope he does really well, man. I hope that guy, gets exactly what he's looking for. But I am excited about next season, man. I do think, again, I think this team has a great opportunity. To your point, I think today is Monday, December 23rd. The portal closes on the 28th. Is that right?
Yes.
And so far, I mean, again, the team has stayed pretty much intact. I was listening to Coach Chesney and some of his post-game interviews and, some of his interviews he's done since the game, and even before the game, and just trying to figure out what his thoughts were about the team and their ability to keep the team largely intact. And, there were times where he's like, I just don't know what's coming back. And, he's very cryptic about, thinking that after this bowl game that there could possibly be a bunch of guys that would jump into the transfer portal. And so far that has not materialized, with only 5 days left for you to enter your name in the portal. But you have to at least have entered your name into the transfer portal by the 28th. Now, there's always the possibility of that pesky little spring portal popping up.
That damn spring portal, yeah.
The spring portal is like, I mean, it never ends. I don't love the spring portal. Like, why do we got to do this twice, right? But I also think that the guys that go into the spring portal, and I could be wrong, but I do believe that some of the guys that jump into that, the spring transfer portal are guys that have gone through spring ball, right? Because it opens up after spring ball.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Right after.
So they go through spring ball, they figure out, what, it's probably not in the cards for me here. Let me jump in the portal and find a place that I can go play. And so I do believe that, if we can get through this fall or winter transfer portal, the spring portal should not hurt us so bad.
Yes, the one downside is the D'Angelo Pond situation where he very clearly was tampered with all offseason into spring portal. And then the second it opened, he entered and magically found his way to Indiana and magically had a 6-figure NIL bag. I don't know how that happened and how that all came together in 24 hours. I imagine there were some things happening behind the scenes there with D'Angelo Ponce. That's the only downside of the spring portal is you sometimes get your biggest name enter. But with no coach leaving this offseason, which is a huge plus, I doubt that happens this offseason.
Yeah, I think the other side of the D'Angelo Ponce take is that Cignetti might have thought that he didn't need him, right? So Cignetti goes through his spring ball. He's like, oh, crap, we got some terrible corners. I thought we had more talent here at this possession. I didn't think we needed D'Angelo Ponce. Hey, Ponzi, we need you over here, my guy, right? So I think that's also another thing is and I think that's also going to happen, right? Chesney's going to recruit some guys, going to recruit some players in the portal. He's going to think that these guys are what maybe he hoped he saw on film.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not. And so he's going to reach out to some of these folks, some other guys in the spring and say, hey, we really need you over here and you can play right away.
And that's what happened last year. I remember they went into spring ball going, okay, we got some young guys here at the defensive back position. If they can develop in this spring, we feel pretty good about them going into the fall. It was the KJ Flows, the Chase Regans, who had fantastic freshman years, but they kind of came together and they're like, they are really good. They're going to get snaps. They're going to play, but maybe we should go out and, target a Ray Williams and a Ja'Kai Young to bring in a little bit of this elderness to the room that can push them to get better. And so you'll see that too, where they'll reevaluate their roster and go, oh, we might need 2 more wide receivers. And then all of a sudden they'll get 2 more wide receivers.
Yeah, and you just brought up two names that I really have my eye on, man. Chase Regan, that guy is a dog, man. I said earlier in the season that the Gunners don't make plays on punt team. That guy makes plays on punt team.
We heard about it. We heard about that too. We heard it.
Yeah.
Mike Regan, his dad, awesome guy. Fantastic. If you're listening, Mike, thank you for being a supporter. He made sure, Delvin, that he goes, my son, he can tackle.
Yeah, no, that guy's got a nose for the football. And I think he is a potentially, all conference performer, man. Just because he's such a hard-nosed, football player, period.
Yeah.
The guy loves football. And then KJ Flo, out of Charlotte, this kid is as talented as they come. And he's passionate, and he seems to really, really love Harrisonburg. And so I'm very curious to see what they do in that defensive backfield next season. Does DJ Barksdale continue to play that nickel role, or do they put him out on the corner, right? Because, Spence is graduating, and we also have Jordan Taylor graduating. Can he potentially go out and play corner, or is that something that KJ Flo would actually do?
Yeah, it will be interesting. They added today, December 23rd. I don't know why I said 18th. December 23rd. Mekhi Rogers, a cornerback, 6'2", out of St. Francis. Jameer Khan, a 6-foot corner out of Southern Illinois, as well as Chance Harley, a 6'1" defensive back out of Maryland.
Nice.
So 3 DBs to add a little bit of length and a little bit of depth to that room.
Yeah, I love it, man. It sounds like it's going to be a great competition. And again, I think that's the other thing that may lead to, spring portal evacuations. It's like, all right, maybe I'm going to play, maybe I'm not. So we'll see how it shakes out. I really hope that, they put some guardrails around this transfer portal thing, though. I think it should deserve one free transfer. I think that would be fair. But if you transfer the second time, you got to sit out a year, right? I mean, they just have to put that in place. You cannot continue to have unrestricted free agency every single year with no salary cap. Like, that does not make any sense. I don't think it's good for the players. I don't think it's good for the game. And I certainly don't think it's good for any of the universities that are involved either.
I think contracts need to come. I think, because I'm all for the players maximizing their profits, but I do think there needs to be some sort of guardrails in the fact of, you invest in the development of this player, you should be able to reap some of the benefits, where, these guys are signing 2 or 3 year contracts and then they can go and renegotiate everything. But then that comes with it a whole players union and a ton of weird things that go around it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot, but you get one free transfer. I think listen, you get to make a decision where you want to go to college right out of high school.
Yeah.
Right. If you made the wrong decision or you want to make a different decision, you get one free transfer. I think that is more than fair. But if you transfer again, you got to sit out a year. And I think that's more than fair too. And if some university, if some P4 wants you to come play, then they'll pay you an NIL bag to sit out a year and wait for you when you're eligible. And I think that is absolutely more than fair. So I also got to say, man, Big Red in person, I was pretty impressed with Big Red on video. Not so impressive in person.
I sent you that picture of the interview that happened in the middle of the game. It looks straight like Gabibo.
Yeah, man. I didn't know if it was Gabibo or Big Red. Like, I was really, really confused. But yeah, Big Red. I mean, Duke Dog absolutely won the mascot showdown. The JMU Marching Royal Dukes absolutely demolished Western Kentucky's band. I mean, they killed it, bro. Like, I had a friend who came to the game who had no affiliation with JMU. She literally, her and her fiance, boyfriend, or whatever, they literally videoed the Marching Royal Dukes. That's how impressed they were. Like, they videoed the entire performance. And so I thought that was really cool. And then JMU Nation absolutely crushed Western Kentucky's fans. I mean, Western Kentucky did not have a lot of crowd support there. And there were pockets of the JMU side that actually were like really full, really loud. If you could hear it on the broadcast, I mean, JMU was live and in full effect in that football game. I was really, really impressed with how we traveled and showed up at that game.
Heck yeah. It came across on the broadcast too.
Yeah, dope. And the other cool thing about that stadium, man, FAU Stadium, what a nice venue. And I do think, I know you're kind of quasi on, expansion. That stadium only seats 30,000, but the way it's set up and configured, right? It's very uniform. And I promise you, if you could put 30,000 people in that stadium, if we had that stadium for home games, we'd fill it up. And if you had 30,000 people in that stadium, it would look like 70,000. Like, it's literally almost closed in on both sides. Like, it is a great, great setup. The problem is for FAU, it's a 30,000 seat stadium and they get 18,000 and it looks terrible, right?
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, for JMU, if we could expand to about a 30 to 33,000 seat stadium like that, man, I think we attract a lot of talent, and we look like big time college football on the broadcast. So really, really impressive. All right. Jack, one more time, man. I mean, I know it's the season finale, but I can't get out of here without a what you talking about, Willis.
What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?
All right. So in the season finale of To the House, the what you talking about, Willis comes from none other than our former coach, Kurt Thumbs Forward Signetti. And man, I mean, this guy goes on College Game Day, I guess, and says, we don't just beat top 25 teams. We beat the crap out of them. And I edited that because this is a family program, but he actually uses the expletive, SHIT. We beat the crap out of them. And I got to say, Kurt Signetti, what are you talking about, Willis? I thought that was like the dumbest thing for a coach to do. And I will say that for my entire playing career, coaches have always warned us as players about giving the other team bulletin board material. And so I guess how disappointing for your coach to go out and actually give the other team that sort of bulletin board material, that sort of fodder to get them fired up to come out and beat the crap out of you. Like, I thought that was like the dumbest thing ever. And you know what? The other thing is, it's almost unbelievable. Like, it's not even that believable for me for him to talk that way. And I'm so glad he didn't do that when he was, wearing a JMU shirt on the sideline. I'm so glad he didn't do this whole performative, I'm going to do this so I can get clicks. It's almost like when he hit a home run, when he said, Google me, and that went viral. It's like he's been chasing that viral sort of moment ever since then. And, at some point, I think the guy's just got to, just be humble, man, and just go win football games. And unfortunately, I guess that's not what he's about now that he has probably FU money, right? I mean, I thought it was disappointing. What did you think about that, Jack?
So you said like you were glad that he never did it at JMU, and he never did. I think he was never given the opportunity to at JMU. I think
BS, bro. No. The guy.
No. How many times was he on the Sun Belt Football Network talking about his preseason expectations? Like the mic is just in front of him. So, and I'm not saying this is like, yes, he is doing it a lot more at Indiana. He is being a boisterous, loud, just crazy guy saying these clickable, he knows what he's doing. He's giving these clickable sound bites. He wasn't given necessarily, like, if the Big Ten network was the Sun Belt network, and on media day he was given a mic and he said, and those same things were kind of given to him, I think he would have said some things, because he said Alonzo Barnett had the yips. He said, Alonzo was out there looking like a golfer who forgot how to swing.
But that could have been an accurate description. Like, I don't think that's derogatory. I don't think that's like
I think there were multiple quotes that he had throughout the time of him being a JMU coach, where if it was nationally kind of spotlight on him, there would have been more kind of uptake with it, because there was another moment when they kind of asked him a question. And he gave kind of a side-eye answer. With that being said, he does do it a lot more at Indiana than he did at JMU. But this has always been percolated inside of Kurt Signetti. This dude is a loudmouth, boisterous winner who wants you to make sure that he knows how to win.
Yeah, he never talked like that at Elon.
That's true.
Not in any interviews that I could see. He never talked like that when he was at JMU. Never, from what I could see. And the guy that he claims to have learned everything that he knows, about football, I think his dad, he learned a lot from his dad too, but Nick Saban never went out and just disrespected another program. Like, I never heard him do that. Right.
That's a good point. He never disrespected another program. He was always introspective, and he kept his comments inward, where if he had something to say, he kind of called Jordan McLeod dumb at times. He would question Alonzo Barnett at times, but you're right. He never outwardly said they suck. Why do we care about them?
Yeah, I mean, listen, at his pep rally when he first got to Indiana's campus, I mean, he basically went out and said, all these teams,
Purdue sucks.
Yeah,
and so does Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, Purdue does suck, but he was right about that. But again, I don't know that I want my coach out there giving teams bulletin board material. I mean, he totally disrespected UCLA after they beat them, and he's like, we went out there and beat there and then got back, right? And it's just like, you're the coach, like, you're supposed to be setting the example. I don't know. I didn't love it. It seems performative to me. It seems like someone trying to go viral and get clicks because he thinks it's like the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is, man, everybody in America loves Cinderella. Everybody in America would have loved to have rooted for Indiana, right? in this college football playoff, especially against the evil machine that is Notre Dame. But you know what I got on my phone? A bunch of text messages from people texting me the clip from College Game Day with Curt Cignetti saying what he says, and everybody saying, I hope this guy gets boat raced tonight. I don't know how you take Cinderella, the program, the underdog, and you legit have the entire country rooting against you because your coach just says some stupid stuff. Like, that's unfortunate for those players, I think.
That is wild. That is insane.
That's insane. So, Curt Cignetti, what you talking about, Willis? All right, man. It's our last opportunity. I love that we got to pile on Curt Cignetti on the last episode of To the House. He totally deserves that. All right, let's take it to the house, Jack. All right. So, you know, there's so many themes that we've covered during this first season of To the House. And in many ways, I saw all of those themes, a lot of those themes anyway, play out last week at the Boca Raton Bowl. Now, there's the theme of redemption, the idea that past failures do not preclude you from future successes. We saw that in Billy Atkins IV, leading the team to victory and history in Boca Raton. JMU Nation, I want to encourage you to do what I like to say and remember a trophy. When things aren't going your way, you can't find success, your career is off track, remember a trophy. Remember a time where things were going well. Remember a time when you were crazy successful. Remember a trophy that you've won. You were successful then, you'll do it again, just like Billy. There is also the theme of competition, fighting for glory, proud and true. One thing we've all witnessed this season is that this team competed, and they compete hard. The results sometimes may not have been what we wanted, but their effort and willingness to compete was never in question, at least for me. And how you do anything is how you do everything. And watching this team compete in the Boca Raton Bowl as if it were the college football playoff was a true example of the spirit of this team. Because competitiveness is not a switch you just turn on and off. JMU Nation, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. So be a competitor. There is also the theme of overcoming adversity. It was on full display in Boca as the team, without the top two quarterbacks on the depth chart, go into halftime with a 7-point deficit. Of course, the team wanted this bowl game to be easier. Of course, we all want things to be easy, but it never gets easier. Instead, we need to do, as Kara Lawson, the head women's basketball coach at Duke, said, and handle hard better. JMU Nation, you'll have some adversity in 2025, and it will always get harder before it gets easier. So make it a goal to handle hard better. Lastly, there was the theme of brotherhood, of sisterhood, and team, and playing for something bigger than yourself, playing for one another, the guy or girl standing next to you. And this was perhaps the most important theme on that warm, soft Florida evening. I was especially reminded of this just today as I attended the funeral of one of my JMU teammates. After the funeral, I huddled up at the repast with the other football alums in attendance. And we talked about our fallen brother, not about any game or any performance, but the memories we made together, about the person that he was, about how he always had our backs. You know, they say grief is the debt that we pay for memories. And watching this JMU team on the field after the game and throughout this season, I can tell you they've racked up a ton of debt. So JMU Nation, the bad news is that, you know, time flies. The good news is that you are the pilot. So until the next time we meet on the next season of To the House, let's remember a trophy. Let's compete like hell. Let's handle hard better. And let's do it all in service of something bigger than ourselves. Thank you for rocking with me this season, JMU Nation. Looking forward to running it back next year. Jack, thank you. Thank Bennett. And I am so excited that we have finished the first season of To The House, man. Jack, you don't have to tell the people how they can find and follow us, but any final thoughts on the first season of To The House?
First season went a whole heck of a lot better than I thought it was going to. Not saying I went in with low expectations, but I came in with pretty high expectations. You blew them out of the water. I'm kind of really excited that you get noticed more at football games, not for your contributions as, the all-time all-purpose yards leader in JMU football history, or, a JMU Hall of Famer or anything like that, but rather the host of To The House. Like that's pretty cool, man.
Hey, I love it, man. I love it. And I'm looking forward to running it back next year, man. You made this very special for me. Let's go, Dukes.
To The House is part of the JMU Sports News Network. New episodes of To The House with JMU Hall of Famer Delvin Joyce drop every Monday, and episodes of the JMU Sports News podcast drop in the middle of every week. Subscribe to the JMU Sports News Network wherever you find your podcast and never miss an episode. You can watch every episode of To The House on the JMU Sports News YouTube. Stay updated on social at JMU Sports News and at JMU To The House, and at our website, jmusportsnews.com.